back to the private record. Wow, this story today, the one you're about to hear, this story, this is one of the submissions that I actually saw, and when I saw it, I was like, oh, I don't even know if I want to hear that story, but at the same time, I knew I really wanted to hear this story, if that even makes sense. I'm just going to tell you the short version of it. When this guy, our guest, Philip, when he was a teenager, or 12, I think, he watched a guy burn alive. Okay? He watched a guy burn, like, close up, saw him burn alive. And I was just like, I mean, maybe you can see it in my face during this interview. I was so morbidly just fascinated by this. And doubly fascinated because I was trying to picture myself at that age watching that happen. That's like the age when things were most imprinted on my brain, from like 10 to 13. And if that happened to me, I feel like it would have been so intense, it would have like changed the trajectory of my life. Anyway, what I love about Philip, he tells a story and it's so intense, and he's intense when he tells it. And then when he talks about like how it affected him, like moving forward, he's just like, I didn't really think about it that much. And I was just like, what the fuck, dude? Anyway, he's got nerves of steel, brain of steel, whatever it is. I don't know. Nervous system of steel. Anyway, it's totally fucked up, and I loved hearing it. Not going to lie, I did love hearing it. And I hope you love hearing it too. Thank you, Philip, for telling us. And if you want to be a guest on the show, go to theprivaterecord.com and submit yourself as a potential guest. I'm looking forward to hearing it. I really am. Follow us on socials, TikTok, Instagram, at The Private Record. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, at The Private Record. Like and comment and do all that fun stuff. And please share with your friends. It means a lot to me, as you know. I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Yeah, that's all I got. Enjoy Philip. Enjoy his story about a guy being burned alive in front of his eyes. Thank you.
Yeah, so my name's Philip Smart. I'm 26. I'm a warehouse worker. And the genre of my story is horror. Really.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. That's enough. I mean, the little bit I know, that's how I would imagine you would classify it. But yeah, let's just jump right in. Let's do it.
Yeah. So in 2011 in Keene, New Hampshire. So I think I was like 14.
Okay.
Me and some friends, we were hanging out at the library, like out the library, like on the grass, and we noticed that there was a bunch of smoke coming from the courthouse, because the courthouse is it's on the same street, but it's just, maybe 100 yards away. And this one kid I was with was like, oh, the courthouse is on fire. Let's go see what's going on. And so we start walking down the street, and we get towards the courthouse, and we see it. And then my friend Riley, who was there, he just goes, oh my God, is that a dude on fire outside the courthouse? And then we looked up, and I was like, it was a cat. We looked up, and there was just this guy just completely on fire. He wasn't screaming or anything at that point, but I know that there was some other people who were there beforehand who saw it like up close. Like my girlfriend was there, and she was, at the time, because we've known each other forever, but she was like right there when the guy lit himself on fire. But we saw it, and he was just standing there, and he was on fire. And we called I remember calling the fire department, and like maybe, I don't know, it took him a few minutes to show up. And there was a woman who was trying to put him out with a stick that she had pulled off of a tree that was right there. And then, the fire department showed up, and just everybody just kind of scattered, and they cleared the area pretty quick. But it was pretty crazy. It was probably the craziest thing that I've ever seen, in my life.
Dude, wait. Okay. So at first, all you see is smoke. You thought the building was on fire. Yeah. Correct? Okay.
Yeah. We thought that that it was just the building was on fire. And so we were like, oh, let's just go see what's going on. And then we get and there was a guy, and I think the story is that he was a divorced veteran, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And he lost custody of his kids because, or he was like facing jail time or something.
Okay.
There was something with child support. And so instead of, I think it was like a statement thing that he was making. So he was like, I'm just going to set myself on fire outside of the courthouse, and that'll teach him, you know?
I mean, wow, that'll not teach anyone anything. But that is that's like ancient kind of shit. Like, people don't set themselves on fire anymore. You know what I mean? Like, that's like a form of protest that the world doesn't really know anymore.
Yeah.
When you're being that's like, I've said this for a while. It struck me recently that almost, obviously I remember other things as well, but I would say from around 12 to 14, maybe 15 is like the part of my life that is imprinted on me the most. Not that like I've learned the most or that I liked the most. That's not what I mean at all. In fact, it wasn't a particularly great time in my life, but that part of my life is the most like imprinted on my brain. I'm curious, it sticks out to me that you said you were 14, seeing that at that age, especially so suddenly, and not expecting to see something even remotely gruesome, let alone someone on fire who had set himself on fire. What the fuck is your 14-year-old brain making of this as you're looking at it? Like, what is that like for you?
Oh, I remember it vividly. It was like when you're having a really like you disassociate. Like, I think that's right. But I think, like, because I was talking to the kid who saw it when we were going over, the kid I was with, Riley, afterwards, and he's like, dude, it didn't even feel real.
Yeah.
It was like seeing it through somebody else's eyeballs, you know? Like,
yeah.
it's just, and I remember, I think the first thing I did afterwards was I called my mom, and you weren't going to believe this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then, she wanted to make sure I was okay and everything too. But it was, I think it was just very surreal and just very immediately like disassociate. And then like panic. I remember like panic where it's just like, your brain is like, oh, I don't want to see this, but too late.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of too late, I'm curious about the timing of it. Obviously, or maybe not obviously, I've never seen someone burn. Anytime I see something, I'll watch fucked up videos, but like I won't watch something like that. Not because I think it's wrong or something. I just don't want that imprinted onto my brain, because God knows I have an anxious mind. I might like think of it a lot. It might give me some kind of anxiety moving forward. But like, you kind of didn't have that choice because it happened so fast.
Right.
Like, what, obviously you remember it, but like, did it fuck you up? Like, did it give you nightmares? Was it like, how long? Well, actually, you know what? How long was he, like, how long were you looking at him burn?
Probably. I mean, it was 2011. So that's a long time ago. If I had to guess, probably about 10 minutes.
Dude, what?
I remember we walked up to it, and then like, we saw the guy on fire initially, and then because he was just standing there, and then he like fell onto all fours.
Yeah.
And then that's when I took out my phone. I was like, oh, you call 911, then this happens.
Yeah.
Thing. And, like there was a large group of kids there. Like, it wasn't me, it was me. It's my girlfriend now. She was there at the time. She was super, I mean, she's a year younger than me. So she would have been like 13. And, then that other kid, Riley, it was just a bunch of middle school kids hanging out at the library. And then we all just happened to walk down the scene. Like, people are screaming. I think most of us called 911,
Yeah.
But it was probably about 10 minutes. And then, because I think the fire department got there within 6 or 7 minutes. So, what had called it, it was, it was probably about 10 minutes if I had to guess. But,
and then, sorry if this is a little bit too much to think about, but like
I said, I've told the story so many times.
Okay. So what I've heard that the smell is fucking terrible.
Yeah.
And heinous. What was that like?
The worst. Yeah, it was the worst. Yeah, and it smelled there for 2 days. I think it was like
Oh
2 days.
my God,
Yeah,
really?
he was. I mean, he was like when I remember when they picked him up off of the ground, he wasn't like he was stationary in like this position. He was very like there was no more like play in his limbs really.
Whoa. And
It was
I mean, this might go without saying, but like how quickly, I mean, he died, correct?
yeah, 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 yeah.
And so was he dead at the time that they took him away? Or was
Yeah,
it like, oh, so he
yeah.
was dead? You
Oh,
watched him die?
yeah, yeah. He was dead. Like I mean, he was yeah, he was very very dead at that point. I mean, I'm not a medical
Of
professional, but
course.
I think that there's no way. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, uh, like at that point he had been on fire for a while, and he wasn't making any sort of noise or anything. You know, so it was, and he was just kind of in that position.
Right. Right.
So that was, yeah, I think that he was at that, like, by the time they got him, he was for sure. Yeah.
And when you got there, he was still alive, I'm assuming, right? Like he wasn't
Yeah.
dead yet. You
Yeah.
saw
He was,
him fall and all that.
yeah. So it was, yeah. So he died somewhere in that span that we all kind of showed up and saw it. Yeah.
And so when you first showed up, is he making noise? Is he screaming? What is he doing?
So by the time we got down there, he was still standing, but he was very much on fire, and he wasn't making any noise.
Wow.
But some of the other people who I know who were there, and they saw him like douse himself and then set himself on fire. They said that he was screaming initially. He did not hear it when we were at we were outside the library. We didn't hear anything like that. We just saw smoke, and it was a good distance away. So it was probably like 45 seconds, you know, to walk down there. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure that like cognitively he was just
Right.
gone really by the time we got there. But
Yeah. I mean, that's what I think about. Like, you know, there's different ways to kill yourself, obviously. And there are some that they say are instant. There are some that the process, like if you were to jump off, not to be too morbid, but if you jump off a very tall building, there's the process before you land. But once you land, you're dead. And then there's, you know, you hear terrible things about people using a knife to stab themselves in the chest. And then there's this, though. This is like, this almost, obviously it is suicide, but it also feels like something else because you're doing it in public, you're making people see it.
Yeah.
And you're leaving that with them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. Well, he had like a letter that he had written, like a manifesto kind of thing that they found afterwards, and they released in the local newspaper.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, and I never read that. I never read the like what he wrote before, or like yeah, we kind of want to forget that this happened.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
You know, and then it's just one of those things where, you know, if I was hanging out with people and people were talking about like crazy stuff that they'd seen, I'd just be like, well, I saw a guy burned to death once, you know,
yeah, I'm sure that tops most people's crazy stories. I guess, I mean, there's no way for you to know this, and there's certainly no way for you to know it at 14. But the thing about killing yourself this way, well, the way it strikes me is that you mentioned he was cognitively not there after a certain point, which totally makes sense. But I would imagine the moment, you know, you douse yourself in whatever, you douse yourself in gasoline, whatever, and then at a certain point you are just on fire. And I would imagine that even if you don't regret making the choice to be dead, you have to regret what it fucking feels like.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel that way getting a tattoo.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
Like,
totally. Yeah.
Well, and then they start doing it. I'm like, this sucks. You know?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. It's maniacal, and it actually feels mean. You know.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody else. They were telling me a story about they inadvertently participated in someone's suicide because the person was walking on the highway in the middle of the night. She was the only car driving, and the person was walking at her car on purpose to die. And it's like, when you involve someone else like that, in her case, it was just one person. And obviously that's so traumatic and fucked up to have to live with. You hit someone and you're the reason they died. That's mean enough. This is like the anger you have to feel at the world and at strangers that, you know, you and a bunch of kids and God knows whoever else was there had to witness this. Even if you did run away because you were like, God, I can't look at this, you still would have seen it for that 1 second, and it's with you for the rest of your life. You know, I'm curious if you or anyone you were with, I know it's so random and no one knew the person, but did anyone have any lasting, like, fucked up things that they're stuck with for the rest of their lives, or as far as you've known them?
So actually my girlfriend now, she talked to a therapist because she would have nightmares about it. She said, I mean, I can't say that anything happened afterwards. Like, there has been times, like, over the course of my life since then, where I'll have, like, a dream about it or something like that. Yeah. Those are so few and far between, and it wasn't like a thing that happened after I saw it. It was just kind of like, oh, that happened, and then this probably just how my brain dealt with it. I was just like, okay, we'll compartmentalize that, and then we'll think about other things, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, in that way, it's almost beneficial to have been 14. Your brain's so elastic, and it's just like, nah, we're not going to do that. But it's interesting that your girlfriend, the reason I'm asking is because I'm imagining myself having seen that. And I've never seen something that terrible. Not many people have, but I would imagine that if I did see something like that, I would never be able to get the image out of my head. And if the smell is anything like what I've heard people describe it as, I feel like that alone would, like, I would remember it in a fucked up way that I would carry with me for the rest of my life, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. I feel like when something like that happens, so I guess some people, just like the way that they process stuff is different, you know, so everybody's different. And
yeah, totally.
Like, sure that there was some other kids who were there who were probably severely fucked up by it. But for some reason with me, like I said, it definitely wasn't, it's definitely hands down, like, the worst thing I've ever seen happen to somebody in my life. But also, I mean, I can honestly say I didn't feel like I needed, like, therapy or anything.
Yeah. I mean, that's good. You know, not everything is like, oh my God, are you okay? You must talk about it. You must this, that. So brains are different. And obviously there's not even any way to predict how one brain will deal with something and how another will deal with something. It's just, again, it's unfortunate almost that it's so random, because it could affect someone in a totally fucked up way that they'll never get over it. And then it could affect someone like you that is like, obviously it was terrible to see and you remember it, but like it didn't have any real material effect on the rest of your life. Yeah. I mean, that is fucking extremely dark and upsetting. I wanted to ask you before we go, for anybody that wants to look up the story, where was this and when was it?
Oh yeah. So it happened in Keene, New Hampshire, which is like the crazy part, because nothing happens out here. It's just like southern New Hampshire, the absolute sticks, you know. It's like population of Keene is like 20,000 people or something like that. It's just a small little, you know, place. And it was in 2011. I think it was it was in June, because it happened in June. But if anybody wants to look the story up, they could probably just Google, like, you know, Keene outside of courthouse, and the thing should just pop right up there. I want to say it was the 16th. I think it was the 16th. When I got the email back that we're going to be doing this, I looked it up and I just skimmed the article to remember when the exact date was, because it is a long time ago. But I think it was the 16th. It was June 16th, 2011. So I should have that story still logged and everything.
We'll definitely find that and put it up for this episode, because I'm sure people will want to be like, what the fuck? I'm sure also, and I might be one of these people. I can't make any guarantees, but I might be one of these people that would read the note that he left, that if it's still out there.
It's in the article.
Oh, it's in the article. Whoa. Oh, it is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We have confirmation that it is. All right. Yeah. We'll post that for sure, along with this episode. Wow, man, that's fucked up, dude. I mean, that is deeply fucked up. Yeah. I'm glad you saw it and not me, though. I'm going to be honest, because that would fuck me up for the rest of my life. And you seem all right.
You can kind of see it through my eyes, and
yeah, even that's you can tell probably it's fucking me up. Well, cool, man. That's crazy. Thanks for sharing your story, man. I can't say that I've always been curious about what that would be like, but once I saw your submission and thought, like, you know, I realized that I actually have spent considerable amounts of time thinking about what that must smell like, what that must feel like.
Right.
So thanks for coming on and sharing with us.
Yeah. No problem, man. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Thanks, Phil. Talk to you.
Yeah.